Your big write for this half term is a narrative based on our study of the novel Once by Morris Gleitzman. Specifically, your task will be to write your own original story to tell the children in Barney's cellar. In chapters 9 and 10, we met Barney and the children that he is hiding in his cellar. The purpose of the narrative is to entertain or to engage the children and distract them from the horrible reality. The audience is the group of children in the cellar, remembering that they vary in age. Some are quite young, 4 or 5 years old, and some are even older than Felix, perhaps between 12 or 14 years old. The form of your writing is a narrative, so a story. The length should be about 1 A4 page if it's typed, between 300 and 500 words. So 300 absolute minimum, and 500 is the upper limit of how much you should be writing. Success criteria. You should use this to evaluate your narrative at the end, but also use it at the beginning to guide your writing. Your narrative should begin with the novel's formulaic opening. Once I was somewhere and something happened, or once there was. This opening sentence should explain the story and give us a summary of what will happen, without giving everything away. The narrative should be written in the past tense, and it should use the first person narrative voice. So the same as in the novel, first person perspective, first person narration. Your narrative should include the 6 parts of plot: exposition, or the introduction, complication, or some kind of problem, the rising action that follows, the climax of that rising action, falling action, and the resolution. How does the story end? And you should include a wide range of descriptive language, so interesting adjectives, powerful verbs, similes and metaphors, personification, and descriptions of the 5 senses. So create imagery by describing what the characters can hear, what they can see, smell, touch, or taste. There are 5 steps in the writing process. Step 1, you will create a plan for your narrative before you begin writing. Then you will write your first draft. Then you will edit your writing using the self-editing sheet that's in this document. After that, you will submit your edited draft to me for a second round of editing. And when you receive that back, you will write your second draft using all of the feedback that you've received. The second page is for reading only. It's to give you some assistance in the initial writing phase. So I've pulled out just a few of the chapter openings, or Felix's story openings from the novel. Chapter 1 opens with, "Once I was living in an orphanage in the mountains and I shouldn't have been and I almost caused a riot." Okay? So each of them begin with, "Once I was somewhere and something happened." Right? Your narrative will have to start in the same way. Okay, there is also a table of descriptive language or effective descriptions from the novel. The left hand is the quote from the book, and the right hand column is identifying what type of descriptive language that sentence is. So in the first one, "My skin is cold and clammy." There is alliteration there with the k sound, and it's appealing to the sense of touch or feel. The second one, "I can hear voices and footsteps and the rumble of cartwheels." It's a description of sound. There's even the use of onomatopoeia in the word rumble. Okay, a few more down. "A few thin needles of daylight are stabbing through the dark." It's personification because it's giving something that is not human a human quality. And daylight is stabbing through the dark. Okay, and I'll let you read the rest of them at your own pace. Page 3 is a writing exercise, or a pre-writing exercise. Miss Green tried to write a narrative following the instructions. Help Miss Green to improve her narrative by identifying what works well and what she can change or add in each paragraph to improve it. Think about the plot structure. Has she included the 6 parts? Descriptive language. Is there enough? Is it effective? Is the sentence structure correct, and is the verb tense correct and consistent? And spelling and punctuation. So read through that. Just by looking at it, we can see that there are 6 paragraphs there. It has my screen written enough to fulfill the 6 parts of the plot structure. And you would type your comments there. So just delete where it says type here and type your comment in the box for each paragraph. So what works well in the paragraph and what should be changed or added to improve it. Following that, you come to your planning stage. We've seen this plot diagram before. It's a visual representation of a typical and good plot structure. So we begin quite flat with the exposition. We introduce the characters and the setting. Quite quickly, a complication occurs, some kind of problem arises, and then the series of events that follows is the rising action. So the action should be building up, getting perhaps more suspenseful, more exciting, leading us to the climax, which is the highest point in the story. Something exciting happens, and then perhaps there's a change as well, and the falling action happens. So it's the events that follow the climax. Okay? And because the mountain is going down, the events are not going to build up to a suspense anymore. They are winding down to the resolution, to the end of the story. Maybe your resolution can be open-ended, can be some sort of a cliffhanger or a more open-ended ending. Beneath that diagram is space for you to plan out your story. So a 1-sentence overview of what will happen at each stage in your story. So who will be in the story, where will it be set, what will be the problem, 2 or 3 events that will follow will be the climax, the climactic part of the story, maybe 2 events that follow that, and then the resolution, how will it end. And then once you have your plan, you can devise or create your opening sentence. So once I was, or once there was, and something. And then you have space to write your draft. You can write it either here on the Google Doc or on paper with the pen. Remember, again, if you're typing, the aim is about 1 A4 page. Okay, quite a lot of information on the next one. This is your self-editing checklist. Okay, so once you have done your first draft, go through each point in the checklist and tick off whether you have met that. So does your plot include all 6 sections? Is it written in the first person point of view? Have you used dialogue, or some dialogue at least, and is it punctuated correctly? Have you used the past tense correctly and consistently throughout the narrative? Are there at least 6 paragraphs, and have you used connectives or adverbs, adverbials, to connect the events or paragraphs? Are your sentences grammatically correct? And have you used a variety of sentences, so some short, simple sentences when some suspenseful action is happening, and some longer, complex sentences for description? Have you used some descriptive language? Check your punctuation and check your spelling. When you have gone through that checklist, then you can submit your edited draft to me, and I will edit and write comments on this checklist as well, right, where it says checked by my screen. When I then send that back to you, you will have the time to write your second draft using those corrections, using all of that feedback. And again, you can write it on the Google Doc or on paper and submit it separately.